So most of the time with year-end lists, people will do their favorites and their least favorite movies of the year. I've already done a favorites list. I thought, why not do a most disappointing list? So these are my 5 most disappointing movies of 2023. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nick here from the Lost River Drive-In, and tonight I am going to give you my 5 most disappointing movies of 2023. Now, I want to preface this with saying that this doesn't mean they were my least favorite movies. I think that all of us know sometimes we have expectations for movies going into them, or things we've heard, or it's a sequel, whatever it may be. And then you watch the movie and you're just kind of bummed out. You know, you had really high expectations, or you really believed that these movies were going to be good. And they weren't bad, but they were just so, I don't know, what do the kids say? Mid? So that's what this list is. Now, I will say 2023 was not as strong of a year overall as 2022 or 2021, but there weren't a lot of truly bad movies either. But I do think 2023 had a lot of middling movies. But these are my 5 most disappointing. And starting off my list has got to be a movie that so many people loved. So many people told me to watch. I finally watched it a couple months ago. Not a big fan. And that's Megan. Now, I guess I shouldn't be that disappointed, right? My expectations weren't very high for the movie. I always thought it was kind of a Chucky ripoff. But at the same time, I remember watching that first trailer when it first came out in, I don't know, late 2022, and I thought it looked interesting. I heard a lot of good things from people, but I was still kind of, Well, after enough of you guys bullied me into seeing it, my worst fears were realized. I understand why a lot of people like this movie. It's definitely got a lot of flavor. It's, pizzazz. It's kind of a newer take on the sort of Chucky idea. So I think for this generation, it was very successful in what it was trying to do. But for me personally, I don't know. I found a lot of it to be kind of cringe. And if you're going to do this, I think you need to go rated R. And I think that's where Chucky has always done it right, is that the Child's Play movies don't hold back. Most of them, at least. And I just don't want to see PG-13 killer doll stuff. Like, it just doesn't interest me. I didn't see Five Nights at Freddy's because it was PG-13 killer animatronics. Like, I don't know. And I didn't play the games, so that won't be on this list if you guys are FNAF fans. But, yeah, Megan just didn't do anything for me, guys. It was what I had feared it would be, so it's gotta come in on a disappointing list for me. Next up is going to be one that I almost didn't put on this list. I almost didn't. And then I thought to myself, nah, I think it deserves its spot. And that's The Nun 2. Now, before anybody goes, well, Nick, you gave a decent review for The Nun 2. I did. I think I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I said it was better than the first movie. I don't know. Maybe I was a little more kind to it. But now I would give it 3.5. Having said that, though, why is that the bar now? As I've reflected on this movie as the months have gone on, I thought, it was an improvement over the first movie. But those first 2 Conjuring movies are like peak modern horror, in my opinion. Like, I think those movies are great movies. They'd probably make a top 50 list for me all time, horror movie wise. Like, those movies are great. And I feel like this universe has just gotten watered down as it's gone on, and no movie has touched those first 2 Conjuring movies, save for Annabelle Creation. Every other one has either been fine, middling, to just plain bad. I would say that The Nun 2 is fine. It's not a bad movie, but it's not scary. It lacks any real tension, and it's just retreads of a lot of things we've seen before. Here's the MacGuffin that we're after. Here's how it's going to stop the demon that's after us. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. I get to a point with these movies where I'm like, is it that the string is played out with the Conjuring movies? Now, I know some of you watching are probably going to comment, yes, it's played out. I don't think it is, personally. I do think you can still make good Conjuring movies, and I really hope Conjuring Last Rites is a really good movie and a step up from the third Conjuring film. But I don't know. These spinoffs, these in-universe films, they're not really doing it for me. And I get excited for all of them, and I feel like that's my own fault. I need to take a step back and go, what was the mistake here? it was getting excited for these movies every single time, hoping that they're going to touch the heights of the first two Conjuring movies, and they don't. So while I thought The Nun 2 was fine, it was disappointing overall because fine isn't the bar. Next up is going to be one that I liked more than I didn't like, and I had nice things to say about it, but overall it was pretty much just fine to like slightly above average, which wasn't enough, and that's The Boogeyman. Now, anytime you throw around Stephen King's name, like at all, people immediately are like, oh my God, here we go, a Stephen King movie. And then I heard about the test screenings, and they were really strong. The reactions were really good from this movie, and I thought, okay, this might be a banger. And it was pretty okay, I guess. I don't know how else to word it. Like, I liked the family dynamic a lot. I thought David Desmalchian was awesome in this movie. He's such an underrated actor. But the monster, the CGI monstrosity that was the monster was just so, like, jarring. Like, it was just something that, like, I just couldn't really jive with. And I feel like the movie lost steam as it went on. I thought it was much more interesting in the first act, the middle of the movie, and then I feel like it just kind of, the string had played itself out. Now, I know it was a short story. There was only a handful of pages, so drawing this out into a 90 to 100-minute movie isn't easy, and I think that they succeeded more than they did, and I would say at least half of the movie is pretty good, pretty enthralling, and the family dynamic is good. But overall, the movie's just not scary. And the hype level that we had going into this movie from all the things we heard about it, and, you know, Stephen King's name being attached in any way immediately has people on the edge of their seat at times. And I don't know. It didn't really jive all that much for me. I remember walking out of the theater and I thought, you know, that was okay. That was, you know, pretty good, I guess. And it's one of those movies that hasn't stuck with me since I left the theater. And that's always a bad sign. That is just not good. So while the movie's fine, it needed to be better than fine. Again, fine cannot be the bar here, guys. Next up is going to be one that I heavily, strongly debated putting as my number one. But I couldn't do it. Because as much as I love this series, I wasn't as excited for this movie as I was for my number one. So coming in at number two is going to be Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. Let me tell you guys something. I know a lot of you guys that watch me know I'm not a huge fan of Pet Sematary 2. And I know a lot of people have really come around to that movie, and it's kind of like a cult classic now. And that's awesome. Never been the biggest fan of it, but I don't hate the movie. I love the original movie. It's one of my favorite movies ever. And I think the remake is just sorely underappreciated. I think it's a really solid movie that tried new things, and I enjoyed it for what it was. So to say I was excited for Pet Cemetery Bloodlines would be an understatement. You know, we're getting the origin story of Judd Crandall. This is awesome. Like, I want to see this. Like, this period piece kind of setting up how we got to where we ended up in that original movie. And my God, dude, this movie is, you know, most disappointing lists don't really land in the realm of, like, terrible. This movie sucks. Like, it's not good. The acting is really weak. The effects are terrible a lot of times. Oh my God, there's CGI with a foot that I simply cannot get behind. It's way too short. It's way too, like, I like when a movie is briskly paced. This is paced to the point where you are just not getting what you need. There's no meat on the bone here. It's literally just scene to scene. The editing is choppy as hell. You jump from place to place sometimes without really much exposition or character development at all. It's just not a good movie. And it's disappointing because I think that this movie could have been really good. This movie could have been the second best movie in the series. I mean, you're going back to the origin here. But I just think they needed a better script, maybe a better filmmaker. And that's no knock to Lindsay Beer. You know, she did what she could. And there's a lot of, you know, really visually appealing stuff in this movie as well. But Paramount really did her no favors. They did the whole cast and crew no favors. And, I mean, you can kind of see that on screen. So I was really excited for this movie, and it really freaking let me down. Not only is this one of my most disappointing movies of this year, it's one of the worst. I think this movie is bad. And now rounding out my list at number one, my most disappointing movie of 2023. And believe me, it pains me to say this. Insidious The Red Door. Now, unlike Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, this is not a bad movie. This is just truly a disappointing movie. Why is it my number one then, if it's not as bad as some of the other ones? Because it was the one I was most disappointed by. Look, I love this franchise. I've always been a big fan of Insidious, ever since seeing the first one in theaters years ago. I was so excited to hear that the original family was coming back. We've got Patrick Wilson. We've got Rose Byrne. We've got Ty Simpkins. They're all back. You know, we're going to get a natural progression from those first two movies. We're going to pick up where they were. We're going to bring Lipstick Face Demon back. This is going to be great. This is like the coup de grace. And what we ended up getting was a family melodrama that's really boring. Now, I will say, the strong things about this movie, Ty Simpkins and Patrick Wilson. I think their dynamic is really good. I think they both gave really good performances in this movie. You don't get nearly enough Rose Byrne. You get like 2 scenes with Rose Byrne. She might as well not even been in this movie, which is awful because she was like the centerpiece of the first 2 movies. So, huge bummer there. And it's just not scary. And it doesn't even really try to be. The movie focuses way more on the family, where they are now, what happened to them. It's all about the drama. Don't get me wrong. Drama is important. It's vital. But this is an Insidious movie, announcing itself as like the final one, announcing itself as giving us answers and bringing back the original foe from the very beginning that everybody was scared of. And it just didn't deliver on any of that. I'm at a point now sitting here where I'm talking about this movie and I'm thinking about it and I'm going, Blumhouse, give us another one. And not just give us another one. Give us another one with the original family, because that shit was not good enough. And that's just kind of the way I feel about the movie. It is overall technically a good movie. And I walked away from it feeling very blah. It was not bad. I didn't dislike it, but I wanted to freaking love this movie. And I just can't get there. I really, really can't. I feel like the movie at times is just a chore and it does not deliver on the promises and it kind of just drags at times. And it's a bummer. Those are my 5 most disappointing movies of 2023. Now, some of you guys are probably going, oh, where's The Flash? Well, The Flash, although it had bad CGI in it and stuff, and Ezra Miller's kind of crazy, the movie was fine. I liked it. I was really there for Michael Keaton, and I liked it. I thought it was fine. It was pretty good. I didn't have high expectations for it, so I walked away being all right with it. Where's Exorcist Believer? You guys know I walked away from that movie feeling fine too. Well, you said some of these movies were just fine. Yes, but the difference is I went into Exorcist Believer thinking it was going to suck, and it didn't. So, again, I'm sure there are movies that I have not seen that some of you guys have seen this year that you're like, oh, how did you not put this on your list? I've gotten to the point in my life where I really don't go out of my way to see things if I have no interest in them, because I will more often than not be disappointed. Now, the inverse argument of that is, oh yes, but you'll end up being surprised every now and then too. And I did that with movies this year. Godzilla Minus One being one of them. Although I'm a big fan of the G-Man, I never really ventured out to see the Toho movies, especially in theaters. And I loved that movie. So it's kind of a pick your poison thing. I don't do it all that much if I don't have a vested interest in the movie. So I want to hear down below what you guys think are the most disappointing movies of 2023. Give me your top 5 and tell me why. As far as my 5 go, let me know if I'm right, am I wrong, do you agree, do you disagree, and why? Let's discuss it all down below in the comments section. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.